talking pregame. I've had Chris on my mind for a long time about a role with the team, and the timing seemed right given the change that we're going through right now. And so Chris and I started talking a couple of weeks ago about this. Connected him with Sheila. We've had a few conference calls amongst the three of us, and ultimately settled on this role that we're thrilled that he's joining us today. I think one of the things that Chris can do for us, in addition to adding a football voice and a lot of passion, you'll hopefully hear that in a second when Chris starts talking about the team and the organization, is helping us build a Detroit Lions culture throughout the entire organization. We have this tagline, One Pride, which I think is perfect, and that we really want everybody in the organization to be pulling the same direction, feel part of the organization, and build this great culture that hopefully can lead to success on the field and off the field and in the community. As we go through the conference today, we really don't want to talk about any candidates for any position, GM or head coach, either that have been interviewed or that might be interviewed coming up. I know there's a lot of speculation out there and rumors. We're not going to get into that today. I'm also, in addition to Chris, thrilled to have access to the others that we announced on the press release. Barry Sanders, Mark Hollis, and Rod Graves from the Fritz Pollard Alliance. And I've talked to several of them already, and they've been instrumental in giving good insight and information as we embark upon our searches. But they will be out there as advisors to us. Chris will be actively involved. He will set in on every interview. For those that have already been interviewed, our three internal candidates, I've shared with shared with Chris their information that they shared with us during the interview, and Chris will double back to them at some point and get to know each of them as well. So they'll be included in the process the same as any external candidate. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to somebody I think you guys all know, Chris Spielman, to say a few things, and we'll take some questions. So, Chris, welcome to the Detroit Lions again.
I mean, it's an incredible opportunity. I want to thank everybody for taking interest in this press conference in the announcement. I was just thinking about this, that, you never know where life takes you, and sometimes life is about timing. And this is the time in my life where this is the perfect opportunity. And I had a chance to talk to Rod and to Sheila and to understand and share the vision of what they picture the Lions moving forward. And it's kind of along my core beliefs on everything regarding life and football. And so when you have that type of alignment, I think that's something that we are committed to create. And the One Pride thing, to me, goes beyond the building, obviously in the building, but the One Pride thing is embracing Detroit, the city of Detroit, the fans of Detroit. It's something I think that I still identify with, I felt a part of, and for lack of another word, it's really, really good to be home in that regard. And I have a vision of that matches exactly what Rod and Sheila envisioned, and that's the only way this could work, because we're completely in sync of the direction of the culture of the building, and something to be proud of for everybody that's a Lions fan. I did want to address this. The timing is right. There's, for years, I've been approached over the years from different opportunities within football, and life takes you sometimes in different directions, and choices that we all make as husbands and fathers and wives and mothers and all those kinds of good things. And so I really do think that this is the absolute right time to get involved. And I'm really excited. I can't tell you how excited I am about the opportunity. The Lions are part of my identity. They always have been, and they always will be. And when I say One Pride, that's just not a noun for me. I always think that is a word of action, and that's going to be my goal moving forward. Okay, so fire away, boys and ladies.
Tim Twentyman. Thanks for taking the time, you guys. I have two questions, one for Rod and one for Chris, if I can. Just Rod, I know you talked about it in your opening statement. Just can you take us through the timeline of this process and why you felt this was so important, a good step for the organization to bring Chris aboard at this moment?
Sure, Tim. I've been thinking about Chris for a long time, not knowing when the timing would be right and what role would be perfect. And then once we made the decision to move on from Bob and Matt, it just seemed like the right time to reach out to Chris to see if he would have any interest in initially helping us out. And then, beyond that, anything that would be more of an official role. And I think one thing led to another. I think Chris and I started talking, very soon after the decisions, and he and I talked several times. Then he and Sheila talked, and then he and I had some more conversations, and I kind of came back to him with this idea. He thought about it. I let him speak to how he processed it, and then we had a follow-up call with Sheila, and really kind of decided to do this probably just within the last couple of days. And I'll let Chris talk about it because he had some issues he wanted to decide about his broadcasting career and Fox and everything else. But it came together rather quickly, but it was over a series of conversations.
And then, Chris, that set you right up, obviously. Just, through your years of being a player here and obviously being around the team as a broadcaster, just how do you think all that's helped prepared you to kind of take on this role right now? And congratulations.
Thank you, Tim. I looked at it like this. I mean, my whole life has been about football, and I've been a part of football on all levels from the time I was born, with my dad being a high school football coach. But I mean, I know that there was some Twitter talk out there about being the GM or any other position. And you think about that, and it's not fair to Rod or Sheila on what they're trying to build, because I'm not qualified to be a general manager. I do know what works and what doesn't work by being 30 years in this business and traveling around to 32 teams year in and year out, and having a brother in the business and watching and learning and conversations with him about what works for him, what doesn't work, to be able to kind of build what our goal is, that one pride thing, that one culture, a culture of, if you put on a Lions shirt, it actually means something. It's not just a shirt to sleep in or to work out. It means something when you put that Lions shirt on. Whether you're a fan, whether you work in the building in any capacity, you are one and you are part of us. And so drawing on my experience on all different levels and talking to leaders every single week and general managers and coaches, hear what works for them, here's what doesn't work for them, books of journals of these notes that I've taken. I know exactly what Sheila and Rod want, and hopefully I can help them and us get there to where we need to be. And so the position that Rod showed the leadership to create is exactly what I envisioned, and I think it's the best way that the Lions can utilize whatever talent I bring to the table.
Thanks, Chris, and congrats again.
Thank you.
Corey Woods. Hey, Chris, Corey Woods of Uber Sports. You say that you know what Sheila and Rod are going to be looking for inside of a coach, but what about the city? What about the fans? What type of coach do you think the fans will be able to rally and galvanize around, and what type of coach will we be looking for in that search?
Well, I think one that embraces who we are and what we believe in. And make no mistake, everybody understands the rules of playing in the NFL. I mean, it's all about winning games and losing games. And so I think the fans should look for somebody that's what the rules are. And we have to be able to find that and identify that and give us the best chance to win the games. But I want the fans to feel proud to be Lions, all of them. And so, the coach that ultimately, when that decision is made, it's going to be what we think is the best way, or what Rod and Sheila and my input, what we think is the best way forward. And I have a lot of confidence in that.
Justin Rogers.
Hey guys, thanks for the time. I got one for each of you as well. Rod, bringing in a football person into this conversation, how important was it also to get one that had a vested emotional interest in this franchise? How is that a benefit versus just a standard, former football player or former GM?
It's a great question, Justin. I mean, obviously, I said Chris has been on my mind for a long time, and that's probably one of the big reasons, in addition to all the skills that he brings independent of his connection to the Lions. But, and I said we want to create a Detroit Lions culture, and I think having somebody who's been here, going back to Corey's question, understands the community, the fans, the blue collar mentality of this town and how much our fans want us to win and how much Chris wants to win and how much Sheila wants to win and I want to win. Having somebody that's kind of been here, that was a home run. And I'm so glad that, Chris was open to taking my call. And I'm so glad we kind of figured out a role that works. And so it was a big part of it for sure.
And then Chris, for us that have been around and watched you as a player, we know the type of player and attitude you played with, and what you appreciate about the game then. Obviously, the NFL has continued to evolve, and as you've stayed involved in the NFL through the broadcasting role, how has your, perception of what is a good leader changed from your playing days to, presently?
Well, I think leadership, as far as I'm concerned, has never changed. I think a leader understands his role and his responsibility. And to me, a good leader, and this comes from a lot of guys in the military, they're pretty good at everything, but they're not afraid to hire people that are great around them, but great at one particular skill, whatever that is. And there's guys that they don't feel ever threatened. And the other thing that good leaders do, in my opinion, you hire the people to do the job, then you go let them do their job with, of course, accountability to those who they are accountable for. But leadership can't waver. Whatever your belief, whatever your core system is, whatever your values are, whatever your identity is, whatever your culture is, it's got to be the same, and it's got to stay the same, because once you start wavering from your core beliefs and you try to change overnight, then I don't think that's the best thing for a team, in my opinion. I hope that answered your question, Justin.
It does. Thanks, gentlemen.
Kyle Meinke. Hi, guys. Hi, Rod. Thanks for your time. Chris, welcome back to Detroit. I'm just curious. You've been around so long, Chris, and you played for this organization. And I know you haven't been inside the organization for a while, but you know what's going on. And I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on maybe previous decisions that were made with GMs, with coaches that haven't worked out, maybe some problems that you've identified and things you want to correct going forward as you advise this search.
Well, I'm not really looking back, because I don't think that's productive. I think we can learn from certain things and what worked and what didn't work, not only from the Lions organization, but from all organizations. That's the benefit that I had in being around and covering these teams for 5 years, and also under every concept of an NFL organization on how a draft works. I'm anxious to learn about salary cap, how scouting works. And the whole key is, in my opinion, is it really doesn't matter what is in the past, because we know that the NFL is all about the next day. No matter win or lose, you keep going forward. And so you want to maximize that. And I think, like we talked about, for me, I think that the goal is to find those people, those leaders, get them in place and let them do their jobs. And as long as they match up with what we believe and what Sheila wants and what Sheila has in mind and what Rod wants and what he has in mind and what my core beliefs are, once we get that, that's who we are. So I'm not looking back. I'm kind of looking forward.
And just one follow-up for you, Chris. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Matthew Stafford. There's big decisions to make with any candidates that come in on what to do with the quarterback position. I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on Matthew, where he's at, how much he has left going forward.
It's kind of tough for me to comment on specifics. I just know this. He's a talented guy, and he's a tough ass. And I've always respected Matthew and how he plays the game. And I'll give you an interesting observation that I had on Sunday. He gets hurt. He goes into the locker room. He's coming out, starting to throw the ball. And obviously he has cartilage pain in his rib from what I read on your guys' reports today, and damaged cartilage. And it takes a leader to realize that, yes, I can tough it out and go play, but does that give us the best chance to win? So anybody that knows Matthew Stafford knows that I could tough it out, but I wouldn't be more effective than Chase is at this time. Chase gives our team a chance to win. So that's something that I refer to as an unselfish and sacrificial giving. For Matthew, it's hard for him to pull himself out or not go back in. So that was a difficult decision. And when I looked at Matthew all these years and went and talked to him in production meetings, the one thing that stands out is he's a team guy.
Dave Burkett.
Where's Dave?
I'm right here. Thanks, guys, for doing this. And Chris, welcome back to the organization.
Sorry I didn't call you back, Dave.
That's all right. I put two and two together, so I figured. But both of you guys got to get me with your art dealers, by the way. I like what you have in the background. Chris, you referenced journals, like taking journals over the last couple of years of as you made your travels around the NFL. Can you just explain that a little bit more? What those are exactly, where they are, and maybe what did you see that worked?
So they're right across the room here, and journals and notepads. I mean, it's like if you walk in here and I spread it out, it's like Beautiful Mind Part 2. Because there's so much knowledge to be gained out there. And I've been blessed with insight, and the insight to know that I can always learn, I can always grow, I can always develop. And there's so many smart guys out there. And when they put information out there, whether I agree with it or disagree with it, I write it down because I want to think about it and say, can that work? How does that work? How does it work with this guy? How does it work with that guy? So some of the people that I've talked to over the years and recently are very smart people that have had a lot of success. Doesn't mean I agree with everything that they say, but they give me thoughts to think about and ideas to think about. And to me, you only grow when you're out of your comfort zone and you're challenged that way. And you have insight and humility to know that you don't have all the answers. Somebody does. And you go find that person and find out what the answers are.
So what's the main theme or two that you took from all those travels in terms of work?
So there's got to be, to me, clear communication. Every guy that I spoke to, in the top 3 of their things that make a great organization, and these questions have been asked for the last 5 years, and plus other private conversations I've had. There's got to be communication. Everybody has to understand the direction that we're going. Everybody has to know what our culture is, and you can't waver for them culture. Everybody has to know, okay, what type of character do we want in the building? From everybody on down, everybody understands this is how the head coach and the general manager have to be in unison. Now, they can fight and argue, which is healthy, but I'll tell you this, that there's going to be, if I have any say, there's going to be unity. It's not going to be an us versus them. You can't build a winning culture in us versus them. There's a great saying, you guys probably hear it, anybody that knows history, together you stand, divided you fall. In unity, there is strength. And there's going to be time. It's easy to be strong when you're on a 6-game winning streak. You got to stay strong when things are rough and you lose a few games. You got to stay unified. And I think that's kind of what we're looking for, if I'm not mistaken.
That last thing for me, do you want to be a GM one day? Is that part of why you took some of those notes? Is that your long-term goal?
No, I just love football. I'm a student of life. I believe that some of my experience, how I got this way, Dave, is that some of my experiences in life away from football, I learned so much that I had people call me and ask me how I dealt with certain things in life. And I was able to pass that information on. And my life experience has taught me that I don't have all the answers, but gosh darn it, I'm not going to get them unless I start asking questions. And I think that I have enough respect around the league that when I ask a question, it's for a reason. And I believe if anybody asks me my why, I tell them my why. Because if I don't believe in my why, then I wouldn't tell them my why. If I don't have a strong belief in my why, then you'll get my whys all day long.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've got 2 questions. One for Rod and one for Chris. First for Rod, what is going to be the structure of reporting here? Will whoever you hire as a new general manager report to Chris, who reports to you? Will they report directly to you? Will they report to Sheila? What's that structure going to look like for whoever gets hired as general manager and coach?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. As Sheila said in her first press conference, we're still looking at a lot of the organizational issues, and I think it'll be dependent upon how the search goes. But Chris won't have any direct supervisory responsibilities, whatever the structure is. He'll be advising the two of us. But I think that was why it was so critical to get him involved early, because I wouldn't want to bring him in after we've hired a general manager or after we've hired a coach and have them wonder, what his role is. That will be very clear to them while we're interviewing the candidates. And he's part of the process of hiring them, so he's going to be invested in their success, and he's going to be available to them as a resource, however they choose to use him in the best possible way. But he's really going to be, an advisor to the two of us without direct responsibilities for supervising either the GM or the head coach. And how the organization comes together amongst the two of them, other than what Chris said, they will be 100% aligned with one another in terms of the culture and the beliefs. We'll determine that organization structure as we get through the rest of the interview process.
Okay, and Chris, Rod maybe just kind of answered it a little bit, but how much say will you actually have in football decisions? And secondarily, even though I know you say you want to look to the future, I'm curious where you feel Matt and Bob failed, because you were around at least watching a lot of these games then.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be fair to make an assessment if I wasn't around there every day to give a fair evaluation. So I'm not going to, obviously everybody knows that wins and losses are important, but I'm not going to, I don't know where they failed. I wasn't there every day to make an honest assessment of that. Look, in my role, I try to describe it as there's one goal right now is to get the best coach and general manager that's best for the Detroit Lions and to help that happen. And for me, once this is all in place, think of me as a servant. What do you need? And I have a saying, and I was telling my youngest daughter to help me with something today, and she goes, "All right." I said, "Listen, I'm going to tell you what I need from you to do my job. Then you can tell me what you need from me to do your job." So think of it as a servant's role. Whatever is needed to be done, and however I can help the team in any way, that's my job, and I am there just to serve. That's my goal, and that's what I intend to do.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Michael.
One question, Brad Galley.
Who?
Brad
Hey,
Galley.
Chris, I come to you from Channel 7 where Don Shane said after you broke his ribs, and I just want to say, even back in this role that you're in, I do not want to recreate that with you for our air. So nice to have you back in town.
All right, bro. Thank you.
When you talked about working together and not having somebody that's afraid to surround themselves with people that are smarter than them, in the last few regimes here in Detroit, and I know you don't want to talk too much about the past, but I'm interested to hear about your experiences in talking with different regimes. In the last few different regimes, there have been some guys that have walked through Allen Park that have been the kind of smartest guy in the room type of vibe, and it hasn't worked out. And then there's been some humble experiences for people that come through that are very well liked, and those also haven't worked out. In looking around the NFL and being around so many different teams, how do you think you can find the right blend of that to find that culture you're looking for?
Well, there's no guarantees in the NFL, as we know, but I'm not saying that I'm going to guarantee anything. What I am saying is my role is to help Sheila envision, and Rod, what they envision for the Detroit Lions, and identify who gives us the best chance for success. I would be naive and I would be lying to you, Brad, if I said, we're going to guarantee this, we're going to guarantee that. I'm not interested in guarantees because there are no guarantees. What I'm interested in is giving my services to give the Lions the best chance to build something of the culture of, like I said, the identity of the feeling of being a Lion to succeed. And then we have to work hand in hand to find those two guys, match them up, and make the best decision possible.
And then if I could just ask Rod, if you bring Chris in and he's admitted to all of us here today that he said he's not qualified to be a GM, how much will experience matter for what comes next and the decisions you all have to make?
You mean with regard to hiring a GM or a head coach, Brad?
Both, yes, yeah.
Well, certainly experience is something we're going to take into account. If somebody has had prior experience as either a GM or a head coach, you have maybe a better opportunity to evaluate what they may do in either job, but it's not going to be a prerequisite necessarily. And I think, we're trying to find the best team. And if that means they're two first-time individuals, that'll be what happens. If it means that one of them have experience and one of them doesn't, that'll be what happens. But certainly, having experiences, it gives you an opportunity to evaluate whether they've been successful in the job versus trying to project. And as Chris said, there's no guarantees. Even if you have experience, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be, successful in the next stop. It's more important for me to find the right two people for the Detroit Lions and our culture and the way we want to communicate, the way we want to involve people, the way we want everybody to feel they're part of the organization. And those are some of the criteria Chris and I've discussed, and Sheila and I've discussed in terms of what we're going to be looking for. Experience is a factor, but not a determinant.
Thanks, guys.
Chris Burke.
Hey guys, thanks for the time. I have one quick one for each of you. Rod, I wonder if you could just expand on the other three advisors, Mark, Rod, and then specifically Barry, what your expectations are for them.
Sure. Each bring different things to the table. Start with Rod Graves, leader of the Fritz Pollard Alliance, and I've had several conversations with Rod already. He shared with me the candidates that the Alliance works with, who are minority coaches and potential GMs who are trying to get their name in front of teams. And he's been very helpful in helping me kind of analyze those candidates and give me some feedback. So we'll continue to talk to him regularly. Mark Hollis, because of his responsibilities at Michigan State as an athletic director, has done a number of coaching searches, and he's been interesting in providing some guidance on process and what works and outcomes that were successful for him. And then Barry, is more kind of, in some ways in a similar way to Chris, just a lion and somebody that understands our culture, the Ford family, and hopefully we can continue to bounce ideas off of him in terms of trying to find somebody who fits for us. And obviously is one of, if not the greatest player in the history of the franchise. Anytime I can have Barry around, it's a good thing. And so I'm glad that he agreed to do this. And so we'll be using them in different ways, but all three can bring something to the table.
Chris, congratulations. You keep talking about wanting to establish that Lions culture. I guess I'm curious, how difficult is that to sort of set in place? And then how hard is it to impart to a coach and GM who maybe are coming from outside of that culture?
So the culture is not unique to the Detroit Lions. I think the culture, like I've mentioned, Chris, the successful people that have done a lot of great things within the league kind of have the same mindset of moving forward, what it takes as far as the one pride thing or whatever your rally call is, and the communication between everybody is vital. It's vital. It's how everybody grows, in my opinion. And so I think that it's not going to be that difficult. Well, I would say that from my understanding, the first two people that we hire are going to be in line with what the Detroit Lions culture is and what is expected from them.
Wojo?
I would just say, Chris, maybe just add on that. And I think, and while she's not on the call here, the culture is going to be, largely set by Sheila. And she's got some very strong beliefs. And at the right time, we'll probably share some of those as we go through the search process. But as Chris said, I think, things start at the top and communication starts from Sheila all the way down. And that's, part of what will be explained as we get through the process.
And that's the thing that, this, although it's a great opportunity, it wasn't an easy decision. And my last conversation with Sheila put it over the top for me. And I woke up that next day because, that's me. Okay, life changes all in 24 hours. After processing that conversation with her, I can't tell you how excited she is and how bad she wants the Lions to represent the city of Detroit, to win a lot of games, and something that everybody can be proud of. And she's the one that said, like Rod said, she's the one that said it. She's the one that put me over the top when I was deciding whether to do this or not. And she's fabulous, great leader. She was a leader for me, man. I was like, all right, let's go. Felt like I talked to a head coach before a game. She gave me a locker room speech, and I was ready to run through the hotel door in Cincinnati.
Thank you.
Wojo?
Hey there, Chris. Welcome back.
Hey, Roger.
Hey, you mentioned a few times you obviously identified throughout your career as a Detroit Lion, and now you're coming back. over the years, has it been wounding to you to see how the Lions have struggled, and is there some motivation there on your part to, I don't know, bring something back? And the follow up to that is, when you say culture, what do you think that looks like on the field with the team, how it plays? So kind of a two-part thing.
Well, I think it's for me, culture is that there's never, ever, ever quit, and you play hard and you play fast. And how do you describe it? I don't know. I see it Sundays with some teams, and other teams I don't see. I think culture has been defined in this year of COVID, and how teams have responded. I've done a couple interviews with some of you. I know Mike and I have talked about this on 3 and Out, where my experience has been the teams that create their own energy, the teams that have fun playing, no matter if there's 100,000 people in the stadium or there's nobody in the stadium. Their mindset doesn't change, and that's clear when I observed on Sundays. But look, this is just my philosophy. I know this, and talking to very successful coaches around the league. For the team, when you have players playing for each other and not worrying about anything else, but just playing for each other, and go back to that servants thing, right? Going back to Frank Gans, who had a great impact on me. What you give will grow, and what you keep, you will lose. If you give that to your teammate on each and every play, everything that you have, that's the type of culture you want. And I don't know exactly what it looks like by describing it. I do know exactly what it looks like, but I don't know how to describe it in words. But when I see it, I know it. Does that make any sense? Because I know what I'm talking about.
No, that does make sense. And the first part of that was, like, as a Lion, how you identify yourself. Have you been wounded over the years watching it? Was that a motivation to come here and help?
I think there's always that, okay, what's going on with the Lions? And there's always, like, whenever I was done, if I didn't do a Lions game, whenever I was done, okay, get on the app to see what the score was, to look at the stats, how they do on third downs, what's going on here on passing yards, how many yards they give up rushing. But, yeah, so there was always a general interest. I don't know if wounded would be the right word that I would use, but I would say definitely interested ever since I left back in 1995.
Thank you.
The last question, Kurt Nagel.
Hi, Chris. Congrats on the new role. Rod, congrats on the new hire. Rod, a question for you. How do you envision Chris's role after the leadership search is over, and how is that going to change your role in the organization long term?
I don't think it'll have much of an impact on my role, other than I have a partner that's going to leverage my time, and I think will be around the organization in every way possible. Obviously, Chris's football expertise brings a lot to the organization that we could certainly benefit from and use, but I'll let Chris speak to this, but I think he's also looking forward to being very involved in all parts of the organization and working with some of our large corporate partners and sponsors, and helping motivate everybody at Ford Field that's working more on the business side, and really having that culture between the organization, 2 buildings, football and business be one. And I think Chris will do a great job at that. And his role will probably go directions I can't even predict right now, because I think he's going to be another valuable asset, not only to me but to Sheila and to the whole organization, in ways that it will grow over time. But right now we got the first job is to find the 2 people that we're looking for, and then after that I think the world's kind of wide open to us in terms of his role. So
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Rod. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks,
you,
guys.
everybody. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks,
Looking
Chris.
forward to it.
Thanks, Rod. Thanks,
Thank
Andy.
you.
Thanks, guys. We appreciate it.
Guys.